they're doing these wild like keyframes and stuff like that, and you're like, okay, you need to teach me. You would never see that if you were all sitting at home, and your peers and the people that you work with are how you're gonna be pushed in your career. It's like, you can only watch so many YouTube videos, you can only do so much just sitting behind your computer. It also creates a healthy sense of competition, to be like, they're working on something awesome, I want to be working on something awesome as well. I think that there is a level of flexibility that needs to be had. I think 5 days a week is pretty wild for the world that we just came out of, but I think that, like you said, nothing replaces being able to work with your peers and just have that sense of community, because it makes, when you're just sitting at home working, work just feels like work, when it's like, this is our lives. And so you should be going out after, and you should be showing up and talking about what happened in Severance and the finale and the references that they were using to create, like, all that is so fun, and you can only get a piece of it just sitting from home.
Thank you. And once again, I have exactly one useful thing I can say, and that is the one thing the internet's not going to change is that the way you get jobs in a small industry like this one is through your network. And the network, or the part of your network that's really going to get you the jobs isn't the people who are your like friends, direct friends or contacts. It's your secondary network, so friends of friends, contacts of contacts. This is like, it produces, most studies would say like 80% of like network, 80% of jobs would come through the secondary network. So build your secondary network. That's why you talk about Severance with people, or you talk about Severance because like it's a good show apparently. But you also like just socialize to get out into the world so that you have a big enough secondary network so that you can like find new work.
Just to illustrate that point real quick, because you're spot on. I applied to my first ever job and got my foot in the door as a PA working at DreamWorks, and I have not applied to a job since. I have been scouted for every single one for the last decade of my career. So having that network, having people know who you are and think of you and remember you fondly is really make or break.
And one of the things I tell my students here at Otis is that when you network, you should be networking to as many alumni as possible, because that's a real thing that, Barrett, in your case, you're part of the Ringling Mafia. So those kind of people really want to help you. They've been through the same thing you have.
I have someone that directly reports to me that I hired from a talk just like this. She works on my team, and I hired someone starting on Monday who is also from one of those things. So people always ask me, like, what is the best way to get in somewhere? It is your network. Like, we get hundreds of emails and hundreds of applications. You would never want someone to sift through the amount of messages that we get. And so we have to be smart in how we use our time. And the best way to do that is to work with people that other people can vouch for. We want to make it as big of a pool as possible, but the best way is vouches and recommendations from other people.
So I've been talking, to go back to the question of working from home, I've been interviewing visual effects supervisors in Montreal and Vancouver for the past couple of weeks, and I'm finding it's like a 50-50 split of people who really like working remotely and people who miss the camaraderie of being on set, on location, walking in the halls, part of problem solving, that kind of stuff. And I've been working from remotely since 2010, so I appreciated being able to do my laundry this afternoon around 1 o'clock. All right, I think that's all the time that we have for questions, for topics. We've got maybe a minute or two for questions. Does anybody have a question for the panel?
Go ahead and yell it out, and we'll repeat the question.
I can do that.
So about networking, what is the best way as like a foundation or into college student to start networking outside of the school?
What is the question is, what is the best way to start networking outside of the school?
Joining clubs and organizations, going to events like this one, So, join SIGGRAPH, there's various animation and VFX support organizations that are built around building community and going to those events. Even going to something like, I'm doing a talk at WonderCon this weekend, I will be doing another one at Comic-Con in the summer. So going to things like that, and not going to the big panel in Hall H where they're releasing the new big thing from Disney, but going to the small room on the second floor in the back, where you have some creator who's talking about what cool project they're making, then you go up to them afterwards and you're like, that's really cool, and next thing you know, you're getting hired to work on it. So yeah, just joining organizations, attending events, talking to people.
To follow up my exact same question, what would be pretty good things to get involved with clubs or what other brands SIGGRAPH can get involved with?
The question is what brands or what clubs are beneficial to you, and which ones should you be looking at?
Oh, going back to me.
Sam, please take this one.
Let's see, what are some other ones? I am a huge fan of the BRIC Foundation, BRIC. Women in Animation, despite its name, is open to everyone, as long as you support women working in animation. You do, don't you? So yeah, those are two really big ones that are good to join. And then there's a couple of continue education schools, online schools that also have communities. So a animation mentor or a, why am I blanking on the other one? CG Master Academy. It's a great place to just take one-off classes, but you can also start to meet people and build community through that as well.
Yeah, Noman is good for that as well.
Yeah.
I know this isn't a specific club, but I do think paying attention to alumni, there are going to be people in the grade above you, the grade behind you, that you're going to be working with side by side one day. I work with multiple people from my previous jobs, people from my school, so everyone in this room could help you get a job one day, and I think having those connections and keeping those up is super, super valuable, because you can always message someone and say, hey, how do you like working at Buck? What is your job like there? I always recommend people not always asking for something right off the bat, but really trying to learn more about the person that was in the grade above them and say, what is it actually like working there? What do you do day to day? And show interest in that, and inherently by that, you kind of gain momentum and you learn, and then they think of you later. So much of networking isn't what can I do right now that's gonna get me a job tomorrow. It's planting the seeds right now that are gonna get you a job in a year, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, networking is key. I've never applied for a job. Every job I've ever gotten in my career was because of people that I had worked with before. Thank you. I'm sorry. We should probably move on because we've got to move on to the next panel. So I'd like everybody to applaud for David and Will. Sam will be staying. Thank you, Barrett. Thank you, Barrett.
These guys are staying around, we can ask questions afterwards too.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't get that. I'm a slave to the timer. So David, are you here? He was here.
I think I'm on the other panel though.
Oh, that's right, you're on the other one.
But I can.
I'm sorry, it's Christopher Rutledge. Yes, sorry, Chris. And Will Wharton. So please join us. The topic for this panel is the pros and cons of freelancing. Okay, so Christopher Rutledge is a CG artist and animator who works in Houdini often. He's always interested in exploring new techniques, tools, and helping others learn 3D and animation. Working independently and in collaboration, his films have screened at Annecy and Ottawa, among others. He co-runs the creative production studio Green Machine along Cole Cush and Devon Street, where he has worked for TV advertising and music videos, with collaborations that include, I don't know who these people are. So, Young, Takashi Murata, Nike, I know, Apple, Lil Nas X, Television, to name a few. And Samantha, we've already met, so I'm going to move on to Will Morgan. Will comes from UCLA's Design Media Arts program, studied under media artists Casey Reyes, Rafiq Amadol, and Toshio Iwai.
Dropping names.
Drawing inspiration from nature, he uses constructed systems of logic to create playful digital ecosystems that both mirror and challenge our reality. These systems originate from a practice of speculative design, creating objects or things that will result from an imagined world. Everything from virtual reality sculpture to digital stop motion are used to create Morton's unique maximalist style, and his work has been exhibited internationally at Milan Design Week, Broad Art Center, Super Chief Gallery, New York, and Art Basel. Based out of Los Angeles, he works between the world of live concert visuals, fashion, projection mapping, and new media art. So, thank you for joining us this evening, and sorry about the snafu. So some of the discussion points, the first one is, when we're talking about freelance, what exactly do we mean? How would you describe freelancing?
I would describe freelancing, this isn't working, but he can hear me. Oh, there we go. Hello, testing. Okay, great. Yeah, I would describe it as sort of like being your own boss and running your own business. I have always been freelance, both during and after school. And the reason that I really like it is because I really sort of want the ability to say yes or no to projects and negotiate things, and also decide when I want to like kind of work on my own projects. I feel like I get a lot more creative fulfillment by being able to, anytime there's like not enough gigs around that are like paid well enough or exciting enough, I can just kind of like work on my own stuff, and then that leads to more gigs. But not everybody believes that. I pulled a quote from this School of Motion podcast in 2019 that I remember listening to from Ryan Hummey, who's actually the founder of Buck, and he said, to be honest, if someone's goal is to go in freelance, I don't really want them here anyway, because when you go in freelance, you're giving up a lot of creative input. And the people who I want to be part of the Buck family are people who would rather be creatively fulfilled than make that extra whatever it is freelancing. So he acknowledges that you can make more money freelancing, which is great, but it's a little bit of like propaganda from the guy running a big company that's trying to hire lots of people on a salary who then don't have any ability to negotiate. So yeah, I really like freelancing, and I recommend it. And no shade to Buck, because they're like an amazing company that does really awesome work. I know.
I'm the one negotiating.
But go freelance for Buck, and you'll have a great time there, and then get to move on to do something else.
I'd say freelancing is kind of the ultimate form of like work empowerment, because you kind of get more options as an artist once you get to a certain level, and different clients kind of have to bid on you basically, and you can, unlike in a typical 9 to 5, you can say no to stuff that you don't want to do or that just doesn't interest you at all. So there's a lot more time to work on your own sort of like projects and develop a ton of different skills in different fields. And it kind of builds a bigger sense of self-efficacy, because you do have to like handle your own negotiation. You have to manage projects. You have to be a producer, but also an animator. So I think it ends up taking more work in the long run, but it kind of makes you a more well-rounded person in whole.
Sam?
They got it.
Okay. Okay, so how do you find your jobs, and how do you find prospective clients, and how long does it usually take a contact to turn into a client? Any of those questions are fine.
I mean, I'm somebody who's always going to events, networking, going to animation festivals, especially, meeting lots of really talented people there. And like also I'm very active online. I like make tutorials for Houdini, and like my clients kind of come from everywhere. Like sometimes it's like, you know, somebody working at a studio who is like recommending me for something to help with something because they saw my Houdini tutorial, or like, you know, somebody that I met at a festival, or oftentimes I'm like recommending people that I met at festivals or pitching them in decks to clients for ad work or whatever. And so it's like, it's always, again, the secondary connections thing, I think is like kind of hard to pinpoint exactly where things come from, but it's always from just really like being at the front of people who are hiring people, sort of mental Rolodex, I think. And to get there, you just need to be like making and putting out a lot of work, making sure people see it, posting stuff all the time, post it on all the social media platforms. It takes a lot of time to make a piece of work, but only like 2 seconds to post it on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, and just talk about it and be excited about it, and people will see that and want to hire you for stuff. And then yeah, if you also like know them in person, then they're gonna want to hire you even more because they know you're a cool, chill person.
Yeah, I agree 100%. For my clients who are freelancing animators, it's all about building up their internet persona, their internet brand, so that the jobs come to them, not so that they're chasing the job. So it's about really knowing who you are, what your voice is, what you can offer, and then just putting that out there across all social media platforms. And then yes, going to the indie film festivals is so important. And then eventually, you know, people are approaching you because they saw your work, they like your voice, they are interested in what you can do. So that's kind of the momentum you're trying to build as an indie artist.
So I work a little bit more in a bit of a niche. I do, mostly for money, I do concert visual design, which is like a bit smaller of an industry than like the ad space, so to speak. And I think that I actually approach things differently. I kind of started off by going to a bunch of concerts and just kind of talking with people who are running them and expressing interest and kind of excitement and just sort of like nerding out over like Cinema 4D and the different like softwares and types of animation that I was interested in. So I think just like finding other people that are in the industry that you want to become a part of, and honestly just like connecting with them over your shared interests and expressing and being vocal about like what you're interested in getting into. Like I think a lot of people want to mentor you and will often be very helpful and supportive if you're just starting off. So if you're not super social, like I don't post a lot online, but if you just can find that first person or mentor to get into the space and then just like really focus on doing really excellent work, like that for me just turned into just constant referrals from other people in the industry, and I haven't had to like post all that much or go to that many events.
Yeah, networking it's always going to come back to networking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So what do you like about freelancing, and more importantly, what do you dislike about freelancing?
Having to pay taxes, I guess. But honestly, it is the dislike, yeah. But like if you're just getting one W-2 form, that's a little bit easier. But yeah, again, mainly I like that it's like I make more money, I think, and have more time to do my own stuff, which then I can just like keep using sort of like, you know, my portfolio and like the clout and like whatever that I'm like sort of building up to get more better gigs and like ultimately have to spend less time worrying about money or whatever and get to spend more time like working on cool stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I have very little bad that I can say about freelancing. I'm like a pretty big advocate for freelancing in general.
Having been a I'm sorry. Sorry, Sam.
That's all good. So obviously I'm not a freelancer, but I do rep freelancers. He's one of our clients. What I'm hearing from my freelance artists is that the creative freedom is the most important thing. Having the ability to work on your own projects, like you were saying, rather than always churning out someone else's vision. For some artists, that's just kind of crushing, and you want to be able to work on your own thing. So freelance affords you that opportunity. The downside is the money management and the hustle. The always searching for new work, the always having to save for when you don't have work, the setting up an LLC and having to like run a small business and having an accountant and figuring out which things are like a business expense versus what is like, I was just doing my own thing. Like figuring all that stuff out is kind of a bit of a mental hurdle for a lot of people. Did you just step? Yeah, so it's like you get all this creative freedom, but it does come with a lot of like admin work.
Yeah, so I think the thing that I like the most is just the kind of diversity in the type of work that I get to do freelancing. I've worked on everything from like fashion shows to like, you know, big pop tours to like directing like fully animated commercials. So I think that there's a lot of room to kind of like grow and learn and acquire new skills that you're interested in. So you never get kind of like pigeonholed if you want to keep learning. So I think it's a really great career path for people who are excited about like really pushing themselves and like kind of learning a little bit about everything. Definitely one con is the like work-life balance thing. For me, it's very, without like a set time to come in and leave, it's very easy to have it bleed into your personal life and not make as much time to just like be a human being. At least that's something that I struggle with a lot. So it takes kind of a lot of discipline in order to just like cut yourself off, especially if you're like me and I'm super excited about this stuff every day. So yeah, like I have to be like pulled away from my computer. So yeah, I think that's one big downside. And then also it's communicating like what you are able to do to new clients also kind of can be a little bit annoying sometimes, because people will often try and like to understand you, they'll like mentally pigeonhole you into like one style or thing you've done in the past. So like being able to communicate the breadth of what you do and like articulate that eloquently to people is really important as well.
I think though at the same time, like being able to communicate to the client is like, yeah, a really important thing. And the way that I like to think about it, and kind of like, it sort of is like kind of inverse of what you would think, is like, okay, this client's hiring me, they're telling me how much they're gonna pay me for whatever, and they're like gonna, you know, be telling me what to do. But really, they need like a problem solved, and they're coming to you as the expert who's gonna tell them exactly like, sort of like the process, and kind of, you can like budget it out and say like, okay, like this thing you're looking for, it takes like, you know, this many days of doing animation and this many days of doing, you know, like lighting and rendering, and, you know, this many days of like whatever, and I'll need to hire a friend to do the modeling, and, you know, you can kind of like put together a budget and like, you know, negotiate for yourself. And I personally find that part really fun. I know that not everybody likes that. I'm like a little bit of like a director and like a producer also. But it's good, like, you know, in freelancing, having been to kind of like be a bit of a generalist and kind of learn all these things. I think it's kind of made me better at all the other things as well. And then also better at like then working with producers or working with directors or sort of whatever.
Yeah, I feel like you have simultaneously like a ton of leverage as a freelancer, but then there's other ways in which you have less leverage. I think one big thing is that since you can be picky with your clients, once you get to a certain level or master a certain niche in your space, you can just charge a lot more money. You can just only work with clients who treat you really well. But I also think when you're getting started, it's easier to like get screwed over by people if you don't have like contracts in place and you don't really know what you're doing, and you're still like learning, so the quality of what you make might not be quite as good. And so you don't have the same like security, like healthcare benefits or whatever that a company has, but it's a lot more exciting. But you learn more.
Also, like other freelancers are like your best friends. Like other freelancers will help get you work, talk to them about rates, figure out what you should be charging, figure out how to like put together budgets for people. And I don't know, I feel like there's sort of like this sort of like unofficial sort of like freelancer union or whatever, that sort of like everybody's helping each other. You can hit me up anytime if you're trying to figure that kind of stuff out. I'm always happy to help people figure out freelancing stuff.
That's also the role of the manager, is to kind of help take care of the business side of things, so that you can just focus on the art. Like, let me negotiate the contract for you. Let me set the meetings. Let me, send out your deck and say like, hey, this person is available. Don't you want to hire them? And like bother them over and over again until they tell me to go away. Let me do all of that so you just sit there and animate.
I totally cut you off.
No, they didn't. That's good.
Come work with us.
Yeah.
So another topic I wanted to introduce is how important is continuous learning? And could you provide a couple examples?
You have to always be growing. You can never be stagnant in your work, or the world is just going to pass you by. So it is of the utmost importance. The second part was like, where do you get continuous?
Any examples? Can you provide any examples of, like if you're C4D, you should be picking up Python or something like that? You
gotta embrace AI. There, I said it.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I understand the hesitation, I understand the fear, I understand the disdain. However, capitalism always wins, and the bottom line is that this is something that studios and the powers that be are fully embracing in order to help them cut costs. And so the way to make it so that we being artists, do not become obsolete, is to learn to use it as a tool, right? So it's a tool, not a replacement. There's just a fun anecdote at the Annies this year. For those of you who might not be aware, the Annies are the Oscars of the animation industry. And at the Annies this year, they gave a Lifetime Achievement Award in technology to the person who pioneered rotoscoping for animation. And in his acceptance speech, he said, when I first started this work, animators were coming at me with pitchforks and torches, saying that I was destroying what they do and was taking jobs away from them. And now here I am 20, 30 years later being awarded for this work. And he's like, we need to keep this in mind as we are facing the onset of AI. So that is definitely a continued learning and new technology that we have to embrace so that we control the narrative. We tell the studios, this is how you use AI, rather than them saying, oh, you don't need these humans, let's just have the computers do it all, because that would be terrible.
Yeah, it's good to stay updated on like what is actually going on, but at the same time, definitely so much hype around AI. I think it's like kind of overhyped, and it's good to not let that cloud your vision too much. I think the best thing to embrace is always going to be whatever the thing is that like you are the most excited about. That's the thing that you're going to be able to get the best at. Like, a thing that I've gotten really into recently, partially from, I share a studio space with a bunch of other freelancers, including Will, and I've been like teaching Will and other people there like bits of Houdini, which has been super fun, and they've been teaching me how to do some of this VR animation stuff using this app called Quill. And I've been able to figure out how to like kind of bring that into Houdini and do some unique experiments with that. And just through doing that, like I made an Instagram post that blew up a bunch and then led to me getting asked to do a commercial for like a gravel bike company that they wanted in that kind of style, which was just like kind of a unique sort of technique and style that I kind of came up with, combining these different things that I was excited about, and then like turned into a job for me. So just like always, following stuff that you're the most excited about will lead to the most cool and unique work, which will always end up leading to you getting then hired to do that kind of cool and unique work, which really only you can do at the end of the day. So you have sort of a monopoly on that in a way. So yeah.
I think that in order to freelance, you just need to be the type of person that's interested in learning for your entire life. I think that it's not like, it won't work out unless